Jonathan Lee Riches Investigates. I am covering the tragedy in Moscow, Idaho. I want to give everyone a quick update about records I'm trying to obtain with the Pleasant Valley School District regarding Bryan Kohberger and his father, Michael Kohberger. Bryan Kohberger, the man arrested in connection with the brutal stabbings of 4 innocent college students in Moscow, Idaho. Bryan Kohberger used to be a security guard with the Pleasant Valley School District, and I submitted a Pennsylvania right to know request with that school district, and they did respond to my request. I submitted it actually on January 5th, so a few days after Bryan Kohberger was arrested. I wanted to get some records about his employment and his any records the school district has on Bryan Kohberger, because it was reported that he worked as a school security guard there, maybe even went to school there. I submitted the request on the 5th. The agency responded back to my request on the 6th, and they said a provision in the right to know law that they have 30 days. They wanted a 30-day extension to respond. So they have up to February 6th to respond to my request. Check this out. So today, what is it, the 13th? The 13th of February, they have not responded. They have not responded. So for anyone that is running into the same situation as I am, when an agency doesn't respond, you do have options, right? If you don't get a response about records, you can appeal that non-denial response. It's called deemed denial. It's when an agency doesn't respond to your request, and you can appeal that to the Pennsylvania Office of Open Records, this agency here. So this is the webpage for the Pennsylvania Office of Open Records. How to file an appeal. If you submit a right to know request to a state or local agency in Pennsylvania and your request is denied, you can file an appeal with the Office of Open Records. There is no fee, and you do not need an attorney. All appeals must be made in writing and must be submitted to the Office of Open Records within 15 business days from the mailing date of the agency's response or the date that the request was deemed denied. If that time frame expires before you provide the required information to the OOR, you lose your right to appeal and may need to file a new right to know request with the agency. The best way to submit an appeal to the OOR, the simplest and best way to prepare an appeal, is to use the online version of the official OOR appeal form. The OOR appeal form can be used to appeal full denials, partial denials, and deemed denials when the agency doesn't respond by the deadline, as well as to appeal any fees being charged by the agency. To file an appeal under the right to know law, a requester must provide all of the following: a copy of the right to know request, a copy of the agency's response, a written statement explaining the grounds in which the requester asserts that the record is a public record, a written statement addressing any grounds stated by the agency or denying the request. And then, there's alternative ways, but that's pretty much it. Submit to an agency. If they deny your request, this agency here, Pennsylvania Office of Open Records, you can utilize it, and then you go from there. But it works. So there's a process. You can appeal within 15 days of the deemed denial, which I did. I actually filed an appeal. So what's going to happen now is the Office of Open Records is going to contact the Pleasant Valley School District and ask them what's up, more or less. You're either going to produce the records or share why you shouldn't produce the records. So it's going to be interesting to see what they say, the Pleasant Valley School District. I think they're going to have to provide the records. It's public records. Anyone that works for an agency in the state of Pennsylvania, and most states, is subjected to public record searches, and the states have to document and log and give information, not full information about an individual, but they do have to state when they were hired and their salary at the time, very basic stuff, because they work for the taxpayers. The taxpayers have rights. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if I get the records. When I do get the records, I will share with all of you. I've been doing this for a long time. The Freedom of Information Act, Right to Know, Open Records, Public Records Act. Every state has a way to call it. Pennsylvania is called the Right to Know. So if anyone does the same thing in reference to records and you don't get that record in Pennsylvania, like even if the agency did respond to me and they just said, well, we're not going to give you the records, I could still appeal to the Office of Open Records. And then it goes through like a process, and it's like a mini type of hearing where, I state, hey, the open records are open and exist and they're public, and they state why they feel they shouldn't be released. So maybe that happens here. I'm just sharing with you that, we should know about Bryan Kohberger's past, particularly him working as a security guard. That's where I'm dumbfounded. He worked as a security guard, but he, studied criminology, and then he did this horrendous act. Allegedly, but I think he did it because I think the affidavit of probable cause is very strong, and I don't think his lawyer is going to be able to pick that apart. I personally think a plea bargain is probably going to happen if the prosecutor takes the DP. You know what DP stands for? DP, off the table. You take the DP off the table, I think Bryan will accept a plea bargain, and then he can spend the rest of his life behind bars and think about what he did and how he ruined the lives and devastated a community and put the entire state of Idaho on edge, even the nation, even media journalists and YouTubers and bloggers like me and you and everyone out there. That's what he did. He caused this, Bryan Kohberger. So he's going to be held accountable one day. But in the meantime, I'm going to get records. And when I do get these records, I'll share with all of you. Subscribe to my channel, hit the notification button. We'll talk soon. Justice for the victims and their families.